Hi everyone, and welcome back to Valhalla Games Podcast. This episode number 23, The Clowning Achievement. This is the story of our trip to Sydney, Australia, where we went to the MOAB Wargaming Tournament, and Dan and I played Bolt Action. Now, we've been absent for a little while. Rumours of our death have been greatly exaggerated. We are here and we are still going, and our regular programming should resume soon. Dan and I, for those who don't know, have been hard at work with our Battle for Primsol Bridge campaign book. The book is now kickstarted, funded, printed, completed, shipped, and still available for sale. But that massive load of work, really enjoyable work, I have to say, is now behind us, and we can get back to podcasting and YouTubing and hobbying and gaming as well. So anyway, sit back and listen to the story of when Dan came to Australia to visit me in 2022, and we went to MOAB.
We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
Hey, welcome back to Valhalla Games, everybody. It's been a while, hasn't it, Rex?
It's been a while. It's been a while for sure. We've been busy.
Yeah, we have been busy. So I think it's almost a year since we recorded our last podcast, but I'm sure those of you who have been keeping up with us will know the reasons why. Obviously, we were finishing the production of our book, then put it out. Thank you so much to everybody who's purchased it, both on the Kickstarter and then since. But basically, we took some time out after that to not do anything on podcast-wise, a few updates on the YouTubes, but yeah, I'm actually visiting Australia, aren't I, Rex?
You are, and before we go any further, it's not that I didn't take any time out, Dan. I was posting books. I don't know what you were doing.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That's one of the bonuses of having the books post from Australia is poor old Rex had to do them all.
Yeah.
All right, but we're sorry about that. Yeah, so Rex, it's great to be over here with you, and should we tell everybody what we're doing?
Well, first of all, we had a last-minute painting flurry of activity over the last couple of days because we're preparing to go to a gaming event. We're going to MOAB 2022, which is in Sydney. It's New South Wales, Sydney's premier wargaming event, and we've long listeners of the channel will hear that we've been to that before, so we're literally on the way. That's what the background noise is. We're in the car, we're on the motorway, and we're on the way to MOAB.
Yeah, I was going to say preparing. I think at this stage we probably should have been finished preparing, but we're currently halfway there to Sydney from Rex's place. But hey, the good news is we're not having to paint while we drive, so we're ahead of normal, right?
Yeah, although I realised that I've got a captain's hat that I didn't paint yesterday, Dan, so if you've got a couple of minutes and paintbrush, there's one more job to be done.
The guerrilla painter strikes again. Maybe we could stop at a ferry or something. I do my best painting at a ferry or at a long-term car park, I find. But yeah, Rex, it's good to be here. As those of you who listen to our recording of Cast Dice, the Cast Dice podcast with Brad Moran, will have, I guess, sort of got a bit of a heads up that we're going to this event. And yeah, we're really looking forward to meeting everybody there, aren't we?
Yep, we are for sure. And Brad accused me of having a very hard list, so we'll have to see how that goes. I did mention to him that it's not the list, it's the general, so perhaps it won't be quite so hard after all, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and I like the way you accused mine of being cheesy, Rex. I have no idea how to even play it yet, but I'll make it up as I go along. So I've got 0 games played so far with my my army. So I'm playing British Airborne, so Airborne Recce Troops, so 6th Airborne Division in Normandy. I've got veteran officer and offsider. I've got free forward artillery observer. I have got a medium mortar. Apart from that, I've got 5 6-man paratrooper squads, 6 jeeps to stick them in, and a airborne recce jeep. And I have got a captured vehicle. I've got thanks to the tournament organisers at MOAB, so I've got a captured SDKFZ 10/4 with the light autocannon on the back, as per historical action when 6 Airborne Recce actually captured one and used it in Normandy. So that's my army. I've got it with me, and it's all painted. Thank goodness, it wasn't too painful. But 0 games under my belt with them. How about you, Rex?
Yeah, I've brought my Soviets from last time we went to MOAB, which MOAB's been on hold for 2 years due to COVID. But I've added to it. I've added a Strathbat squad and a T28 tank for lots of that cheesy machine gun action. So I'll be looking forward to lighting up the field with that. But just before the list was due, I ended up kind of deciding I wanted to just go with something a little bit different from last year, and so I made the list and then came back after I submitted the list and decided I knew I needed a few more men, but I didn't quite realise how many more men that I needed. So yeah, the last 2 weeks has been pretty hectic, painting 2 squads of guys and a 3D printed tank, but we got it done. And I'm looking forward to getting there. Only about an hour to go, Dan.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, your army's looking great, Rex. So 20 dudes in a couple of weeks with your workload, which I know you've moved heaven and earth to make this happen. So yeah, I take my hat off to you. I had to do a bunch of jeeps and the crew really in the jeeps. Although when I got here, I realised. I erred on the side of caution and brought some more SMG guys, because as per historical events, I've equipped nearly all the guys in the recce troop with SMGs, and I don't necessarily think that's a great idea for gameplay, but purposes. But yeah, it's historical, so. I had to, luckily I brought a few more guys, because I had some guys over here for the photography for the book, and I was like, I'm sure I've got quite a few SMG guys. Then last night I was like, I do not have enough SMG guys, and I suddenly remembered I brought some guys even though they didn't have any basing on them. I brought them over, so I quickly just based them up last night to suit the rest of the army, and threw them in the army case for today, didn't I, Rex?
You did, and they look good as well. So that's quite an impressive list of yours. How many order dice is it?
It is 16, but majority of those are jeeps, and because we're using the optional, again with the organisers, the TO's permission, the optional split squad rule over multiple transports. So I've got 2 jeeps per section, 6-man sections of paratroopers, and so 3 men in each as per the transport capacity. And so because I have to move as one, I'll be drawing 1 dice out, obviously, and then thinking about it, then if I want it to be one of those squad's jeeps, then I'll take the other dice out and move the 2 jeeps together, because they have to stay in coherency. So yeah, some of those are twofers, those dice, so not quite what it seems in regards to dice dominance of the dice bag, I guess.
Alright, sounds good. And what else are you looking forward to at MOAB, apart from playing five brutal games of shoot 'em up?
I'm looking forward to bratwursts, which is a tradition, isn't it?
It is, for sure. And hot English mustard.
Yeah, I'm a fan, as long as it's mixed with a bit of barbecue sauce and or tomato sauce. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the famous MOAB bring and buy. How about you?
Yep, bring and buy. All we're going to do is convince our respective game partners to either pause and run downstairs to that, or if it finishes on time, or I'm not quite sure how that's all going to work.
No. I don't need an agreement. My list is so bad and I'm so inexperienced with it that I'm pretty sure I'm going to be all done by well before 2 hours, let alone the 2.5 hours.
Right. Okay.
I actually think my list will be quite fast to play. Yeah, certainly in movement, because I'm either going to be able to move it quickly, and because of the 2-for-1 sort of dice situation with the split transports, or I'm not going to be able to move at all because almost everything's in wheeled vehicles. So yeah, it's going to be one of those situations, I think. How about you?
Yeah, well, it is only 900 points, which is a strange points total, but I think last time it was 1250. My memory could be wrong on that, but I think it was, and I was definitely struggling with the Soviet lists, lots of inexperienced guys. I was definitely struggling to get the game finished in 2 hours, because I'm a pretty slow player anyway, and plus it was a new army and 1250 point list from memory. I was really struggling to get the game played in 2 hours, so I'm sort of looking forward actually to being able to hopefully get it done in 2 hours with 900 points without too many problems.
Yeah, I think they chose 900 points because this year they have allowed 2 additional things. They've allowed armoured platoons, which is something they don't normally allow at a lot of the Australian events, and they have allowed also lists from Bolt Action Korea. So 2 new additions, and I think the 900 point limit in there was to perhaps put an extra limitation perhaps on some of the craziness, make people think again about some of the powerful things that are introduced in those sort of different types of lists. So I think that's where the 900 point thing comes from, and I think it's a pretty good idea since it dipped the toe in. I found it was interesting as well. I sort of wanted that extra 100 points. I had to make tough decisions, and that is exactly what it's there for.
Yeah, it was good, and that's what enabled me to, well, caused me to downgrade my list from the T34 down to the T28. T34 is my favourite tank. They've got plenty of power, and they're just a great kind of tank that synonymous with Soviets. But yeah, I think we're coming into a bit heavier traffic here, Dan, now. So I might sign off for a little bit, and we'll chat again soon. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I'll monologue us out. So for those of you who don't know or are listening from overseas, so we're not using the new FAQ in errata because it came out so close to the TOs opening the list submission. In fact, some people had submitted their list earlier than that came out, and so it was made a decision not to take that. So we're not working under that one, which obviously changes the playing field somewhat, especially for Rex's tank. Yeah, and we're really looking forward to it. I have not played Bolt Action in months and months and months, since basically since just after the release of the book, when I've had some games, and yeah, I'm really rusty, and this is just a really great opportunity to play 5 games together in a weekend. So I'm looking forward to it. I know Rex is too. I'm going to let him drive now. I'm going to shut up, and yeah, look forward to tonight, our time, and later on this podcast, and we let you know how our first day's gone. See you then, everybody.
See you, everybody.
Right, Rex, here we are after a crazy day's gaming back in a motel nearby where the MOAB was held today. So a good day's gaming. I really enjoyed it. We've got great things to say about the organisation there, haven't we?
Yep, it was fantastic. 2 TOs for the price of 1, which was great. Plenty of hands-on, very well organised.
Yeah, well done, Adrian and Ian. Great job.
Yep, it was good, and the room was good. I was a little bit worried that we're in a smaller room this year, but yeah, it was fine. And all the tables were set out nicely. Some really nice tables there. A lot of time and effort had gone into those. So yeah, all in all, great day one. Shall I talk a little bit about my first game, Dan?
Go for it.
All right, first game was with Tristan, and against a guy called Tristan, and he had the Germans, which was a good matchup. Germans and Soviets.
Germans.
Yep. Germans versus Soviets, always some meaty action there. So the board that was on was a weird sort of river board where there was sort of like a left-hand side of the table and a right-hand side of the table, and then there was this river running up the middle. It was almost like two completely separate games, as I'm sure you've played before, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. So the river ran from short board edge to short board edge. Is that correct?
No, long board edge to long board edge. So, yeah, so there's basically two 4x4 tables, if you like.
Nice. All right. That is an interesting layout for a river dissected playing surface. Right. Yep. Go on.
So yeah, it was ripping into it, and I was pretty excited. I hope it didn't come across too excited like a crazy person, but man, I was rolling some dice, and being Soviets, I had quite a high dice count, and I really wanted to get through that list, so I was pushing to roll dice and make bad decisions as fast as I could.
Yeah, love it.
So yeah, he had a couple of standouts in his team. Where he had a multi-launcher, like a vehicle multi-launcher, and he also had a heavy howitzer with a team of horses towing it. So, and he actually relocated his heavy howitzer during the middle of the game. I've never seen that before. But yeah, so he had some toys there for sure, and I had my Soviets, and basically I just roared them on, sort of split them in half where I thought was a logical split, and tried to play the two sides. We ended up with 5 objectives, so plenty of objectives to go around, and it was just a case of picking the objectives that were the most low-hanging fruit, as it were.
Right.
And so I deployed pretty well, I thought, except that I completely forgot about the truck, and at the end of it, I was going, well, what is this extra order dice? Well, that's the truck. Those 2 squads over there are meant to be in. So yeah.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, classic first game of the new army. Forgot the truck. So those guys had to walk, and it's a long way when you're walking. So, but yeah, it was pretty uneventful for the first 2 turns. But at the end of turn 2, we were ranked up like wild animals about to charge each other like gladiators or something. It was right ready to go, and then turn 3 it was going to be on. I was pretty happy. I was feeling pretty cocky, Dan. I thought I was. You told me you thought you had things set for that next turn. I thought I was set. All I needed to do was get first dice out of the bag.
Oh, classic.
Yeah. So anyway, after my opponent got 4 dice out of the bag first, things had changed a lot, and things were nowhere near as promising as what they looked. So some of my squads were pretty ragged by the end of that. But yeah, on the left-hand side, I pushed up. He brought his guys forward into sort of a sandbag kind of enclosure type thing. That was the one of the points was on that we were trying to go for, and basically I just ran my guys up and just peppered him with that until finally he died, and it took a while. Ran my flamethrower up, and what did I do first? It was a comedy of errors. I think I shot him and missed maybe, and then I shot him and got 1 hit and got 1 pin or 2 pins or something like that, and then immediately ran out of fuel. So that was pretty ineffective. By that stage, my tank, my T-28 tank, which was my crowning glory of my army, was lying on its side. Did you just say spoonerism there? Did you just say, it was a Freudian slip? Did you say the clowning moment of your army? Yeah, that was it. That was exactly it. So yeah, I was all ready for those 4 MMGs, just light them up. And then it just lay on its side, and that was the end of it. So I don't know what was going on with that, but I did manage to get the tank riders off, and I ran up my NKVD squad and assaulted his heavy howitzer. Took care of that. That was good. And then, but then it was running, trying to get away from this armoured car thing that was chasing me. And I ran back around the board, and they just didn't make it as far. And my other units were just getting thinned out. So it ended up being a win to him, and well done to that as well. They just wore me down with attrition. He put a squad in a building, and I couldn't dig him out, and they just kept peppering me, and I was just hanging out there with my butt out in the wind, trying to sit on the objective. But yep, so that was a loss, but a fantastic game. Had heaps of fun, lots of memorable moments, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah, you seem to be having real fun over there. It seemed in a good way. Not tense with each other, but like seemed to be creating some real tense moments. I saw you play through, so that was good. Again, not with each other, just in the narrative.
Yeah, it was good. It was definitely tense there at points, in a good way. How'd you go on your first game, Dan?
So I played a fine gentleman called James Houghton. We should say, so it's key. We mentioned this. So his key positions in this first game was the mission. Everyone is playing the same missions. All throughout this tournament, everyone's playing the same mission at the same time. So we're playing key positions. We were on a French village sort of board with a church in the middle. Nice church too, not too big, not too small. It was good. And we'll post some pictures of this up on our of the tables that we play on up on our blog, won't we, Rex?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, Dan, I don't know if you realised or not, but I actually own that church.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I've got that church all painted up. It's one of my only terrain pieces that's actually completely 100% complete.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to having you rock it on a table against me at some stage. So the James is playing a SS Charlemagne army with some sort of Panzer Grenadiers in support. I get the feeling it's partially a like Last Levy sort of army, just restructured around SS. So yeah, it was very good. So it's got squads of SS Charlemagne and a Panzer IV J. So I had to combat Tiger Fear in that one, which is interesting. Multi-launcher. Yeah, and one of the cool things about his army is not only did he have a nice display board for it, but he had a whole bunch of objective markers as well, 40mm objective markers, and those are highly detailed as well, because what he's got is he's got pictures of a looted artwork on there and little frames and stuff. He's got like little gold bars, so it's all like Nazi sort of gold and stuff like that, sort of been run off to some place and obviously fallen out the back of the truck or something. But the detail that James had gone to is that he'd actually researched out artworks that had gone missing that were known to the Nazis had stolen them, and he'd shrunken those artworks down and put them inside the frames on those objective markers. And I really, really appreciated that. And James, you're listening, great job, mate. It was really good.
Oh, fantastic. That's something a bit different. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. We too had 5 objectives, must have been a theme. And to be honest, we were quite linear across the middle with 3 of them. And then we sort of probably, strayed away from that centre line, 1 on each side. So definitely, without obviously knowing whose side we were on, we definitely erred on the side of caution. No one had balls of steel and was willing to hang it out there, which is probably just as well, because then James chose to switch sides and everything like that. So yeah, it could have gone particularly wrong for whoever lost the role for sides, I think. But yeah, it was a really good game. I think I was lucky in a way because it was a church, sort of a village thing. There was all the roads are blocked off. However, I guess I shot up towards the centre of the board and those objectives in my vehicles, in my jeeps, my 3 squads, and I sort of debussed them when I got to the roadblocks, if you like, the dragon's teeth and stuff like that across the road, and launched my guys forward from there, and they managed to seize and retain the initiative in the no man's land there area, and got in amongst the church and buildings, sort of out of sight. And he really had to ferret me out there once I got there, quicker than he did. And I sent my SDKZ 10/4 down my right flank, and it eventually managed to run over a couple of hedges and do a left face and stuck its barrel in the face of the guys manning that multi-launcher, and they didn't like it up and when they unloaded into them, so that was good. And didn't do anything against the tank, but it's Panzer IV, but I managed to fight through the Tiger Fair, and I was really dug in like a tick around those around the objectives, and James sort of managed to whittle down a couple of units. He destroyed 3 of my jeeps, and they debussed their payload already, their guys, so I wasn't really too bothered about that. And he took a few guys off each one of my squads, but didn't get them down to half strength, and so he didn't get points for those. So I ended up having a really good win, but it wasn't at all really that reflective of how it was. I thought it was much more tense than that, and it was a really, really good game to start the day.
Fantastic. Oh, that's good. That's good. And then we tried to get a bit of food go to the toilet and all that.
The convention 500. So how fast can you get down to the food queue? How long can the food queue be? And then can you find a toilet that's not being used by people? I actually did find toilets that weren't being used by people. I think they didn't know it was there, but the food queue was hideously long. So we just sort of said we'd fight through to after the next game, didn't we?
We did, yeah. We toughed it out. But I think we traded food for the bring and buy, Dan.
That's true. Oh, we did get to the bring and buy, didn't we? Yeah, that's a fair one. Went to the bring and buy. Bring and buy was full of stuff. Another really good effort from the Sutherland Shire Gamers to really well organised with barcodes and everything. Like, it is not an amateur operation there. They've got FPOS and stuff like that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them sort of restock. I think they sometimes have a little bit more out the back, or more people come and bring stuff on the second day. So I'm really looking forward to tomorrow and maybe having another look. I didn't see anything today that I had to take home with me. How about you, Rex?
Yeah, I'm the same. I think it's probably reflective of how much stuff I've got sitting on the shelf waiting to be painted as well. Anything that's new is going to add to my pile of shame. Well, has to be really, really good to make it into the bag this year.
Yeah, and in fairness, you know what, with all the price increases everywhere that have been forced upon manufacturers, and it's not their fault. They've got to cut their cloth to measure. With all the price increases being forced upon them and therefore us, passed on to us, you know what's not going up in price? The stuff we've already got at home.
Yeah, that's right. So think of how much money we saved by buying all that stuff already.
Yeah, exactly. And our loved ones thought we were crazy.
Yeah, we're the most sensible people around.
Man, buying that stuff saved us so much money.
Yeah.
So let's talk about round 2 then, Rex. So who was your opponent?
Yeah, for sure. Game 2, I played Kieran. He was a great opponent, really laid-back guy. It was a really good game.
What was the mission for this one, Rex?
This one was Breakout, which is one of the Bolt Action Alliance missions. So there's 2 Bolt Action Alliance missions in the tournament, and then the other 3 are just out of the Bolt Action rulebook.
Yeah.
So this was the Breakout one. So for those who don't know, the way that works is basically it's attrition. So how many order dice can you take? How many kills can you get off the other team, the other side? And you get 1 point for each of those, and you also get 1 point for each of your units that you get into your opponent's deployment zone, which is only 6 inches on their side of the table. So it
really maintains the 2 ways to play this, doesn't it? You can stand off if you're not, because sometimes you just watch the army go by. It's like Top Gun, right? It's like, where'd he go? Where did who go? And they're just past you and off the board. But this way, the 1 point for each, 1 point for destroying and 1 point for being in the deployment zone, not moving off. So they have to stay there, and therefore they are still a target. It makes an interesting balance, doesn't it?
Yes, well, more to that in a while. But yeah, that's definitely the thing. Whereas with the bolt action scenario where you go off the edge of the table, you go off the edge of the table, and that's it. You can't be targeted anymore. But yeah, not the case with this one for sure.
And the other side is true as well. So once you're gone, and you can't support your guys anymore either. So you can't sit there, turn your gun around and fire and support people too. So
yeah, that's true.
It's a trade-off. It's interesting. I looked at it. It's the first time I've actually played this one. I looked at it and I was like, okay. But I got it after I played it.
Yeah, it was good.
Well done, Brad, and the BAA team.
Yep, good on you. So I played on the same board that you played on, Dan, for the first round, which was that church board with the 4 roads coming into it. I'm not sure if somebody moved the terrain or not, but by the time we got there, it was 3 of the roads coming in were anti-tank obstacles, but 1 was open. So
actually no, that is true. Yep. So I think I had 1 road that was open on my side.
Yeah. So I snaffled that side as well.
Nice.
So that I had that 1 opportunity of getting, because being tank traps as well on those 4 roads. I mean, that's it's one thing to stop vehicles, but tank traps obviously stop tanks, hence the name. And yeah, so that would have made a real big difference to me with how I was planning to play it. So getting that 1 road open, that was really great.
Good, because no one wants to be Tim nice but dim, right?
That's right. Yes. So basically, I just advanced and shot and advanced and shot and advanced and shot. There was a pesky armored car from the other side, and I just, for some reason, I don't know, there was the lights were on, but no one was home, Dan, while I was putting my list together. And all those slots that I could have taken an extra Panzerfaust, a captured Panzerfaust, I don't know. I think I mentioned to you that I submitted my list at 11:55 at night on the night it was due, and I had 5 minutes to spare. So I guess that could have had something to do with it. But I didn't have a lot to deal with tanks and a lot to do with armoured cars, except my tank, as you so rudely pointed out to me. But yes, my tank was mostly pinned and down for the most of that game. So yeah.
Was that its clowning moment?
That was his clowning moment, yes. Being pinned and down. Yep, he went down.
His clowning achievement, I should say.
Yes, that was it. But yeah, so I did pretty well at that game. I was pretty happy with how I played. So Kieran's army was Japanese, and I think I may have played Japanese once before, forever ago, but I'm not really familiar with it. I mean, it was a real shock to me to get to continually be forgetting and asking him, right, okay, morale check, and it's like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to get political, but I think sometimes communities are reflective of what their ancestors or whatever fought in their units, stuff like that, and what they didn't appreciate in like their stories they passed on to their their youngers. Yep. And I don't think there's too many people in Australia queuing up to play Japanese, just to be honest.
Yeah, it was. And
it's nothing against anybody Japanese listening to this. It's just the past. It's just the past.
Talks about their tenacity, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Their win at all costs attitude, both historically and in the game. So Japanese came, and those guys, those crazy stick anti-tank guys. I don't want to talk about them anymore. But yes, let's just say that that they came up. Well, in fact, I actually did well. I put in a shield and managed to deal with both of them. So that was really great. So neither of them had an effect on the tank. My flamethrower did well. He flamed twice. He actually didn't run out of fuel. He actually did some hits. He actually did some pins. He actually killed some people. So I was very happy with that. That's very out of character for my flame guys.
You rolled out those ones.
Yeah.
You've rolled them out for your flamethrower. That's good.
Yep, it was good. Yep. So that was good. Just moving guys up, running forward, shooting, running, and I did pretty well. I came to the end of the 3 or 4 dice before the end of the game. We didn't make it to the end of the game. They called time. 3 or 4 dice by the end of the game. I think I had 2 squads on the back in his deployment zone. We were dead equal with dice, because being Soviets, of course, you take a fair bit of attrition. So those you throw away units to achieve what you've got to achieve. So those games where where it's about kill dice, that's a bit hard for Soviets. But we were on equal, and I had 2 guys in the back, and I had another 2 guys that were just about to go into his deployment zone. And one just got smited, and then one of the other two, one that was about to go into the deployment zone got smited, and then two of the other ones that were in the deployment zone, they got hammered by the stupid armoured car again, which just seemed to be chasing me all around the board. One of those evaporated, the other one survived, and then they called time. Just before I got my last squad onto the back line. So that one was actually a draw. Well, in fact, he had one dice more than me, but that game is you got to win by 2 or it's a draw. So yeah, that was pretty close. That could have gone my way, but it just didn't quite. So that was a good game. It was a fun game, a relaxing game. There was no stress. We were just having a good laugh, so it was good.
Nice. All right. And I looked over and I saw you guys having a blast. And I saw you, playing down to time. And luckily to save the day, I managed to go and get us a hot dog and a hamburger. But I better tell my story first, then, I guess.
Yep. Right.
Jumping ahead.
Yep. Game two for Dan. So let's check the score at this point. So you've got 1 win, and now you're into game 2, right?
Yeah. So I played a lovely guy, Ashley Thompson, his name is, and Ashley's actually on YouTube. He's got a channel called Irwin Gaming, and that's Irwin as in Irwin Rommel. It's Irwin Gaming on YouTube, and he's got some really great stuff on there. He's got nicely painted stuff. He's got informative videos. He's got like some battle reports sort of stuff on there. So go and give him a sub because we have, and it's really good. So his army was BEF, British, 1940s list, 1940 list, 3rd Division, I believe. I was playing on a cratered bocage, ploughed fields and ruined table, sort of like an area you find in probably in Normandy, and it's been like heavily bombed and stuff like that, or heavy barrages going across it prior to the engagement. So a lot of infantry there, truck, a couple of a tank, armoured car, Lanchester armoured car, loads of MMG shots and that. So it was really good. I managed to again push up, dominate the centre of the table while he was trying to do some other stuff. I think initially he went on a blocking position, but there was, even though when you first went to that table it looked as if there was no way across, so top tip Rex, this coming out after the tournament's finished, if you get on that table, have a closer look, because there's a lot of like 3-inch 4-inch laneways across that table on the far edges, far flanks and stuff like that. Right. So okay. It's not as bad as it looks. So I found those, and he just didn't manage to plug those gaps, and I managed to dominate those with my little pairs of jeeps carrying my paratroopers in. Got up in his face like little angry hornets, disembarking angry paratroopers, and kept him back on his side. Such a nice game. It's such a nice bloke. I lost track almost of the time. A couple of times we were looking at each other's army and going, "Can you see that? Oh yeah, can't see that." Or we corrected each other on letting the other guy do something, as in like, "Oh no, that's no, you can definitely see there. I reckon you can definitely see there. Oh yeah, can I? Yep." So that was, it's just those sort of discussions that make for a memorable and really nice game. Really appreciated it. I managed to keep him back there, and his armoured car, this Lanchester one, like 10 MMG shots, was starting to play havoc with me, but I just had so many jeeps and stuff over there. I managed to get one of my jeeps to die in a very important gap between a wood and the edge of the table, which then closed off like a good sort of foot of that part of the table, so he couldn't get past. And of course, as a wood, he can't see my guys on the other side. So I plugged up that gap there, got my guys in sort of dead ground to the other side of a hill from a large BF squad with a couple of Brens and that in it, and then basically waited for my time and then just shot out into his deployment zone on that flank. Same on the other flank as well. So weaved my way through things in a little like almost laneways down there. and got into both sides of the flanks are really important to me. Got in there and yeah, he didn't get anything into my deployment zone, a 6-inch deployment zone that you have to end up in. He did kill a couple of my units. I think it took like 147 attrition points off me. But I'd actually killed quite a lot at this stage. I think the only thing that were left were his tank and his armoured car. And I'd had quite a lot of stuff in his deployment zone. But that was not really indicative of how close it was again. And lots of times, I felt a lot of time that he was coming for me, or that I was in a bit of a tight spot. And I think I just made some good decisions at some critical moments, perhaps. And just really used the ground to my advantage in that one more than anything else, and got in there for a good win. So it was good.
So you didn't even bring a pet this time, did you, Dan?
Nah, I've got the hero of the day was my so I was sucking up tank shots all over the place. My hero of the day for this game was my SDKZ 10/4, because it got immobilized in the open. Luckily pointing towards the enemy, but he didn't get to actually fire because he was continually getting pinned, and then I'd rally and get the pins off him, but he just would not die. They were just there, two guys just running around, sticking their fingers in gaps in radiators and stuff like that. Maybe it was chewing gum and putting chewing gum in the radiator or something, trying to get it to go, and then they get another airburst or something next them, and they get shrapnel through them again, because they certainly weren't manning any cannons in this game. Didn't even shoot a single shot, I don't think, but they did. They sucked up 3 MMGs worth of each turn from him, basically. And that was all shots that weren't going on anything else. So happy days, right?
Yep, sounds good. Good. All right, so that one was a win to you?
It was a win to me, but the biggest win was probably running down, because we finished early. It was one of those general's agreements. You're just you know what? We'll just finish, after turn, I think we did 5 turns, or turn 6, something like that. We didn't roll for another turn anyway. I actually think it was turn 6, but we just didn't roll for another turn. We'd made an agreement at the start of that turn that it was going to be the last turn. We was like, yep, cool. Down tools and just big running things down to the queue. Got the head, got 2 bratwursts or whatever it was, and hot dogs and a hamburger to share, and a couple of soft drinks. I don't even drink soft drinks, but man, I needed that sugar. Ran back up to Rex, whose eyeballs are hanging out, and just said, here, eat this stat, and thrust this hot dog into your face, didn't I?
Yeah, so we didn't get lunch at lunchtime, but we made up for it when we did get food, so that was good. Yeah, tomorrow for sure we're taking food in stock, so that we've got rations for us to keep us going.
Yeah, for sure. So we shoved our food in our face. We went for a quick tiki tour around the games, not the games actually. In fairness, the vendors, I think. And we might talk about that for 2 seconds later. But it was very quick. Went to the toilet, came back again, and got into round 3. So round 3, which was no man's land scenario out of the rule book. And who were you playing, Rex?
All right, so if you keep your score at home, that's 1 loss and 1 draw to me so far. So game 3, I played Mark, and we played on so Mark had Australians. Now I don't know, Dan. Australians. I don't know, Dan, if you know this, but this is only one thing that I dislike more than playing Japanese, and that's Australians. That fanatic in defence just scares the I don't know what out of me.
It's truth. Yeah. They're flaming mongrels in defence, those Australians.
They really are. Oh, gosh. Yeah, they really are. So I've played them, gaming buddy Ian, as Australians, and I've just had some horror stories with them. They just dig into hardcover, and you can't get them out. So
would you say that Australians better at home or away? Closer each day, home and away.
Oh no!
It's because when you attack them, they've got a barbecue going, and it's get those flaming mongrels out of here, mate.
Well, when I went to Europe on my big overseas adventure, and I met this guy, and he said to me, when you get to the most remotest place in the world, the most way out of the way place up in the mountains, up in the hills where the snow is, where Heidi lives. And you get there and you open the door, there's always an Australian there saying, "Crack, g'day mate, you want a beer?" And so
that's why they're tenacious in defence.
That's right. So they set up camp, they crack a beer, and then you just can't get them to move. So it's enough of the racial stereotyping for now. So Mark and his Australians, fanatic in defence. Oh my gosh. So anyway, we played on a crazy crowded urban table. It must have had about 15 or more of the big 2-story foreground buildings, and it was really tricky to get down in between and really tricky to navigate around. And so I sort of decided there was 2 kind of gun lanes, one on the left, one on the right, and sort of decided, okay, I'm going to push down those. I'm not going to worry about all that rubbish in the middle, and I'll just get in there, and I'm going to run my truck in there, and then the guys are going to dismount, and it's going to be glorious. And the other side, maybe the tank, and it's T28 is just going to light them up, millions of machine guns, MMGs, and it's going to be glorious. Soviet victory. Didn't pan out quite like that. So far I haven't made an idiot out of myself. I've had quite respectable games. This game, not so much. All right. So Mark really cleaned me up. He really, there was nothing left on the table after he'd finished. So it was horrendous. But I moved up the guys, and my glory moment was when I actually remembered to put my Flame Squad and the Fanatic NKVD team in the back of the truck and rode them up, at which the truck immediately got blown up, as often happens. That's fine. Guys get out and take a few pins, but and a few casualties. He rolled, and my Flame Squad just completely evaporated. So that was okay, I guess. And then I thought, well, it's all right. I've got my 10-man NKVD squad. I'll just get them out, and I'll use that benefit of being able to move forward 6 inches from the vehicle when I get out. And just as I sort of put them there, and just as I finished putting the order dice beside them, he said, "You realise that's a Flame Squad there, like 3 inches away?" And I'm like, "Should I try and do a take back or not?" And I said, "No, I shouldn't. I already said it. I already declared it. I've moved it. He's a really nice guy. We're having a great game. I'll just leave it. They'll be fine." They weren't fine, Dan. And anyway, it just
so they did barbecue you after all.
They did barbecue me, yeah. So it just got worse from there. There was a bit of a glory moment when the T28 rolled up and jumped across a bit of a brick wall and gunned some guys down. That ended badly as well. So what can I say? It was totally outclassed. I can't blame the dice. I can't blame anything. He was a great player and also a really nice guy. And he cleaned me up. But I did use the opportunity to say to him, "Look, so because you won so comprehensively, how would you like to just share with me what you think I should have done next time?" Try and
garner some tips.
Some wisdom off him, and he gave me a couple of pointers. But one thing I did, the only thing was probably my glory day was I attacked with my 12-man inexperienced free rifle team, Soviet players love, and I attacked some pretty hefty guys, and in hand-to-hand combat, and won, surprisingly. So I'm going to do that more often. Just those force of numbers, even though they're inexperienced and they die. If you breathe on them, they die. Just those force of numbers, 12 guys is big. So I learned something from that. I'm going to go forward with more assaults from my big units, even though they're inexperienced, which I've always been a bit afraid of in the past. So, yep, well done, Mark. That was a good game. Comprehensively beat me. We were both still smiling at the end, so it was all good.
Nice. And just coming back to that inexperienced squad, I mean, look, you can have the most elite squad in the world and run it into somebody. You need fives to kill their veterans, and they need fives to kill their veterans too. So, in regards to hitting them, especially if you can get the jump on somebody, you still need the same number. And then if they get a chance to hit you back, well, you've got the numbers. So, yeah. Especially if you get hit first. So, yeah, I think that's a key takeaway there, Rex. Well done.
Yep, absolutely. Because I've got so many big squads that, I'm going to rip into that. It's sort of been holding them back a little bit because, they're only inexperienced. But, yeah, good takeaway.
Nice. All right, then. Well, my round 3 was against Adam. And Adam was playing a Soviet armoured platoon, and really nicely painted, and an even better presentation-like board that they, tray that he's carrying around in. So I'm posting pictures of that up as well.
Yeah, particularly like that. He was he had just to describe it a little bit, he had like a tray, I guess, with terrain on it. And he had like a road that was kind of weaving its way corner to corner on the table with some
undulating ground.
railing.
It's all autumnal and a fence and stuff like that. And clearly, because this is like a 900 point tournament, but he had little plugs, so he had 25 mil plugs to put in the other one, so he can obviously use that game board for other tournaments that he goes to. I thought it was very clever and really nicely presented.
And particularly, I like the autumn trees and that. I love those colours. A little bit of snow on the ground. So yeah, I've always had plans to do an autumn display board myself in the past. Never actually managed to do it, but yeah, that was really inspiring. Well done.
Display board envy as I carried my guys around in my McDonald's tray, and I was just like, I come from New Zealand, I couldn't bring this with me. But in the back of my head, I was like, I've disgraced myself. There's no place for disgrace. I was just like, right, I got to redeem myself here. So we started. So his armor platoon, he's got 2 T-34s, a quad Maxim, a BA-64B, which I think is a command vehicle. He's got tank riders. He's got a couple of trucks with everybody else in it, commissar, rifle squad. So all tasty. And I have to admit that if I said there was one type of army that I probably didn't think I was going to go too well against in this, when we came down this morning in the car.
Yep.
What type of army was it, Rex?
Yeah, you said armored platoon.
Armored platoon, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Why
how
is
you got
that,
all
Rex?
that.
Why is that?
No anti-tank, no Piats.
No.
Bring out the Piat.
But I do have my trusty, inexperienced, captured SDKZ 10/4. My gosh, and what it was about to do for me was a tale to behold.
So, okay, all right. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah. So there we go. So I won the roll off of sides. I chose the side I wanted, and so that was all going swimmingly, right? So we're playing no man's lands. It's just like, right, let's go after each other, just kill each other. Oh, he's got tanks. All right, okay then. So Dan devises his plan where I'm just going to be angry hornets swarming anything that I can kill and stay away as much as I can from the tanks, which didn't really seem like it was going to be possible to stay away. I just thought, I just want to be survivable somehow. So yeah, actually in this one, he managed to come across the table towards me, which wasn't great. I think I used the buildings as shelter a lot more than like a very linear sort of building. I'd almost describe it as like because this is a desert train station, and this building was definitely like a train station-esque sort of long building. That one there on one side of the board, crates and stuff like that. So yeah, it was again, look at the pictures on our blog. But yeah, it was a nice board. So we've got a railway track dissecting the board, short side to short side, just providing soft cover. We've got the buildings and ruins and stuff like that. We've got sand dunes that looked sort of like a spur line, a ridge line, short, not very wide ones, but they were played just to be sand dunes in this one, so no obstruction of movement, just you just couldn't see. You could hide a whole tank and that behind the sand dunes, so yes, quite interesting. A bit of railway rolling stock on the track and everything, so yeah, enjoy looking at the pictures. So he came to me on this one, and part of the reason for that is forgot preliminary bombardment, started playing. And then somebody said, oh no, I just got from one of the tables, just called out to him. His mate goes, oh no, I got spanked on the preliminary bombardment. And we just looked at each other and went, oh. And the TO's done a good one on this, by the way. If you've got a scenario with preliminary bombardment, roll 1 dice, and then that result applies for both of you. So either you both get it or you both don't get it. But we didn't get it because we didn't do it.
Yeah, which is a shame for you because all those tanks. That
It's a big shame for me.
That would have made a big difference.
It's a big shame for me because I ain't got a lot to take out those tanks, and so that might have been nice. But you know what? I forgot, just like he forgot. So that's just the way it is. You've got to love them apples. So anyway, he came across to me, and so my SDKZ 10/4 was waiting though. That BA64 came around the corner, and then I went to open fire on it, but I couldn't because it was 24-inch range, and I was like, ugh. And then I held my fire, and then I took some fire from them coming towards me again, and then I held my fire, but yeah, I waited to the right moment. I waited to the right moment till I had a little flanking force with my with a squad of paratroopers there, and then just that exact moment, right, I did my clowning achievement. I rolled a double 6. And I foobarred just as my own paratrooper squad was like 6 inches away with the enemy within 12 inches of them on the high ground, trying to race over the top of the embankment the tracks were on. And my SDK said 10/4 went, there they are, and turned their gun towards them and promptly unloaded 2 autocannon shots into them, which destroyed my squad. It destroyed my squad. And as the red gore, visceral gore, just dispersed around them, they were wiping it off their goggles and stuff. Much like, I don't know, I guess I imagine the guys out of Waterworld. You know those guys in Waterworld with the machine gun, and they get turned around by the chain and everything. There's do. Somehow I imagine my SDKs 10/4 doing that, and then just really high-fiving each other. After that, they promptly died to the enemy, and I don't think anyone else cared. I don't think anyone cared.
Did you care at that point, or they just done a bad job?
I didn't care. They just became impassable wreckage. That was the wreckage, the flotsam and jetsam of my life.
Yeah.
But so he was sort of on me on that side on my left flank, and I tell you what, my paratrooper squads they were just dying in a ditch. They were just fixed bayonets and dying in a ditch. And there's a famous picture from, I think, the crossroads at Arnhem, where unfortunately and quite poignantly it shows 2 paratroopers. They've died on top of each other, and that's what these guys are like. They're just in a ditch. They had no rounds left. They were just in a ditch with bayonets, and they're just going for it, and they just couldn't be dug out. They couldn't be dug out, and at one stage I was ahead by 5 dice, and then the T-34s, because I'm starting to whittle down anything I can kill, and I'm starting to whittle down, and it's swinging backwards and forwards. This is a great game, by the way. So we had, oh man, that guy's a really good dice suck, and then he had horrific dice suck, and I'm sure he's singing the same of me. At one stage I was like, oh, he was all over me, and I was like, right, I brought in my forward artillery officer, brought in my artillery on the corner of a building, and I dropped the building on his free squad with their banner and stuff, killed all them, put a load of pins on everything else. It wasn't like a horrific result for him, but it was a game changer, because everything I put pins on basically didn't get to move that turn. Yeah. It really gave me some breathing space, and in so doing, it got me to I assaulted a few things. My paratrooper squads basically attacked a couple of vehicles, shot up his commissar, ventilated him. Then the recce jeep zoomed forward. What was apparently a suicide mission, stopped 4 inches short of his quad maxim, and just said, "Have at ye," and just unloaded and ventilated that quad maxim. And as it rolled over onto its side, I was just like, "Boo-ah." And then his truck tried to outflank me and came down the side of the building, and it stuck its nose out about 1 inch from where I was. The tank had unloaded everything. One of his tanks unloaded everything into the rear of that recce jeep, and hadn't destroyed it, just immobilized it. And those guys swung that Pindle mounted MMG around, and they just gave that truck hell. And then at this stage I destroyed everything that I could actually destroy, because it was just tanks left, right? And I was like, and my vehicles, I covered my jeeps that unloaded their troops, so this pair of jeeps, I basically tried a classic getaway move, And yeah, they just did not bug out far enough. But I actually had 2 Jeeps over there as well, behind like a waddy, behind a sand dune, and then I bugged out these 2 that were directly in front of him. I thought, yeah, I've done well there. And then he saw what apparently I did not in my dusty moment of just still, flight tired and stuff from coming out to New Zealand and the early morning this morning, and he just he got his tank and he just drove it. And if you imagine 5 dots on a dice, I had 4 Jeeps with nobody in it, 4 transports, and he just moved his tank into the middle, like the centre spot on this 5-sided, the 5 result on a dice, and just went, and that's the last dice of the game, and I'll have those 4 victory points. And I just looked at him and went, yeah, you will.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it pains me to give him those 4 points, but he totally just seen something I hadn't, and I just didn't get away. I was like, I hadn't seen it, but actually thinking about it, I had no way to get away further than that.
Yeah, right.
Because he ran as well. I ran and then he ran, and they were close. He was close at the start and he was close at the end, and all my other guys were busy, basically out doing their thing, hunting and killing his squads and his other vehicles, everything else is dead apart from the T-34s.
Yeah, right.
And they were just nowhere to be seen. So no matter where he was going to go, if he was on that side of the board, he was going to destroy them. Literally, he could have measured from one side of the board to the other. So
yeah, right, yeah.
But anyway, it ended up I got 9 dice and he got 8. And I got 509 attrition points, took off him, everything apart from those 2 tanks, and he took 262 off me. So a really respectable result against Armour Platoon for me. But the record book says draw, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thought that was really reflective of how good that game was. So well done, Adam. Thank you so much. It was brilliant.
Oh, sounds good. Sounds like a fun game. Yeah, the curse of the empty transport has haunted many of us.
Well, especially when you push forward like that. Basically, I was getting them away from. I took out a few of his, destroyed a few of his infantry squads, and but I got those squads. I got the dice out of the bag and stuff like that. I just could not get away far enough because he was too close to me at the start of my sort of escape sort of plan, and therefore when he ran just as I ran, he was close to me at the end.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody chase after a transport before. It's an interesting move. I guess you wouldn't do it for one transport, but if there's 4 that you can possibly get, then yeah, that's good. That could be a plan, Dan.
Well, it's a kill, right? It's a kill, and right. It's a kill dice game. It's a kill dice mission. So why wouldn't you? Because you can either spend all day shooting at it and hoping you're going to get 4s or whatever, followed by 6s, followed by whatever, or you can just drive after it.
Auto delete them.
Yeah.
All right.
That brings us sort of to the end of the day, but we had a bit of a tiki tour around the stalls and everything there. So spent some time at Eureka Miniatures, beautiful miniatures there. Spoke to the guy there. That was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good having a chat to him. He was really passionate, and always good to see somebody even at the end of the day that's still excited and just hugely proud of his product. So that was fantastic. And then we went to War and Peace Games, had a little bit of a look there, and over to a couple of other stands, including the terrain guy, Dark Castle Terrain.
Dark Castle Terrain, yeah. We saw his stuff there, and got to say, man, that Pegasus bridge that he's got, it is probably twice as big as the one that Warlord do. It's definitely like a 28mm rather than like 156. It's like a heroic scale Pegasus bridge. Very nice, and the sort of Reichstag there as well. Man, that's
Reichstag was really nice and quite reasonable price too for it. I mean,
all this stuff's reasonable stuff. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So check them out. He's on eBay if you're looking for stuff. So, and Dan, what was your best purchase of the day?
Oh, the best purchase of the day. There was right. So we're walking around.
Listen to how excited he is.
It's like we're walking around. We're just been down to like the Bring and Buy. We left the Bring and Buy with nothing, nada, not a bean. It's like, what is going on? So we're walking around. We're walking back, and we're like getting ready to leave. And we see the stand, this little thing that says magazines, $2. $2. And I'm like, oh, there's War Games Illustrated there. Oh, I can see the corner of them. They've got plastic bags. Oh, the sprues are still inside there. So there's like 10 copies of the War Games Illustrated that's got the British and Canadian infantry sprue on the front, 43 to 45, and 10 copies. So me and Rex pick up 5 copies each, 5 sprues for $10 Australian. So that's a whole box of infantry for £5 each for those of you playing at home for like real money. £5 for like a whole box, just without the box, new on sprue. Like, what are they doing there? What were they doing? They had no business being there. At the end of the day, they had no business for $2.
Someone should have bought them for
$2. It's gonna love me long time.
Yep, it was it was the deal. So even though I've already got a box of them, even though I don't need any more of them, even though I didn't want any more of them, I bought them.
It's like $2 for a sprue.
$2 for a sprue. Magazine for free.
Magazine for the sprue. Sell a magazine online at the next bring and buy at your club. Yeah, I'm going to get naked tonight and rub those sprues on me in bed.
No. G-rated.
Because I just like them that much. Like, they had no business being up in that.
They should have been bought like 0800.
We caught you slipping, man. All you gamers there today, we caught you slipping.
Yeah.
You missed out on like a $10 box of like bolt action miniatures.
Now that all the bolt action stuff's gone up, now all the games and stuff gone up, it's often $80, $70, $80 for a box of 5 sprues. Yeah, and we got a box of 5 sprues. Free magazines as well for $10. So yeah, both Dan and I bought those. So yeah, that was a really nice way to end the day. And then we headed home for Chinese takeaway or Chinese sit-down restaurant actually, and
that service there was so good. What a lovely guy.
Yeah, it was. So all in all, a fantastic day. Game wise, I had one serious loss, one draw, and another loss which could have gone either way, and the draw could have gone either way as well. It was so close to winning. And Dan, you won how many?
I won 2 and drawn 1, and I made a point of saying, I felt some of those games closer than I said. But if you told me at the start of this tournament, so I remember I haven't played a game with this army. It's a completely different concept. It's not like I went from like the Waffen SS and all the Schwimmwagens or anything like that. I've never played an army like this so far in my bolt action sort of history, because I always like to play something different. And haven't played with it, and haven't played bolt action in a couple of months. And I've got a result already that I'd be proud to go home with. So, and I played 3 fantastic dudes and had a great day. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow too. I always love this 5-game tournament. I always love the last 2 games, because at that point you've either risen or sunken to wherever you are in terms of your performance of playing. So at that point you're always getting games with guys that are almost with the points system, you're getting games with guys that are right on your level, and they're always great games. So I always enjoy those last 2 games better than I enjoy the first 3 games.
Yep. And I guess the only thing that needs to do is tuck ourselves into bed, and we'll get up tomorrow and we'll go back in. Starts off with Best Painted, and there's some fantastic armies there. I'm looking forward to taking some photos. And we'll have a look around the chain of command setup as well in the morning before our tournament starts. There's some beautiful terrain and stuff there, and lovely guys. And looking forward to meeting some of those guys. And have another great day tomorrow. We'll look forward to telling you about it.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks for a great day, Dan.
Good night, Rex.
Good night, Mary Ellen.
Good night, John Boy.
See you in the morning.
Hey, welcome back. All right, Rex. So we head into day 2 after a fantastic night of tripping all the nightclubs in town, going out, living all our lives in one night, driving home drunk, getting into fights. No, hang on. No, there must have been somebody else. We went home. We had Chinese dinner together, which was unexpectedly sophisticated, wasn't it, Rex?
It was a sit-down meal and everything.
Yep. And so we hit the floor running again the next morning, surprisingly early, surprisingly fresh for an event. Rex, we went into our first game, and who were you against? And tell us all about it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was feeling pretty good this time round. Two or three hard games the first day, but I bounced right back. I think it was the Chinese fueling me. Game 4, I got drawn against James. Nice guy, and I've said before many times I always loved games 3 and it's games 4 and 5 on a 5-game weekend, because by that stage you've risen up or dropped down or whatever to using the Swiss pairing method to somebody that's your class. So you're sort of you're really getting a great game that's about the right toughness for you. On those first 2 games, it's really swingy. You never know whether you're going to match up with the best player in the whole of Australia or someone that's just a beginner. So it was great.
Yeah, for sure.
So the board we played on was a desert board, and it had the flat roofed desert buildings.
Oh, yeah, dome buildings.
Yeah, which is quite cool, and some sort of stucco or rendered walls around the buildings. So that required a little bit of discussion about what was what, and mainly about movement. How are we going to get up to that second story building if there's a staircase on the outside? Do we consider that one move, or do we go with the bolt action rules where second story is 2 moves? And so that was a bit tricky, but we worked it out because one of the objectives was right in the middle of the building on the 3rd story.
Oh, that's right. It was the bigger building on that table that had a 3rd story, and one of the few that had a 3rd story, if I think correctly. It's sort of a board that reminded me of Tunisia, sort of the greener part of Tunisia, around like a waterway or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. And the game that we were playing was Crossfire from the Bolt Action Alliance mission pack book.
Yep.
So for those who are not familiar, that's divide the board diagonally, corner to corner, 2 lines from corner to corner, and then which gives you the exact center of the table. You put an objective marker there, and then, without going into huge geometric detail, 4 evenly spaced clustered around that. So always 5 objectives and always 1 in the middle. We had a bit of a debate, even had to call the TO over for a discussion about how we're going to handle that one that was right in the middle of the board on the 3rd story. It's a little bit ambiguous, just the way that it works out sometimes, Stan, with the you get a board that's not necessarily suited to the game.
Yeah, for sure. And from what I could see, because I was actually on the board next door. More on that in a minute. It looked like you just wanted some more information on the scenario and how that objective was going to work within that scenario, rather than debating with each other and just in regards to the placement of it.
Yeah. So we got started and we got deployed and moving my guys up. I decided to go for outflanking this one because it was a nice road to my right short edge of the table as I was looking at it. So I thought, that could be handy for that last dash. Because the guy that I was playing against, James, he had a pretty tough army. He had a Panzer IV for a start. That's always pretty exciting with the Panzer IV rule, and I got tricked by that a couple of times in the game. And then he had some pretty tough squads. Didn't have a lot of infantry because he had spent a lot of points on those, and the squads that he did have were pretty highly decked out. He had one squad which I've never played before. I can't remember what it was called, but it was sort of like a super fanatic.
James, sorry. So this is James. I played in game 1. So it was based around a core of Charlemagne SS.
That's right.
So they've got something about no homeland or something like that. So they fight to the death.
Yeah, so down to the last man, no auto checks or anything. Whereas my NKVD squad, which I have one only, and they are fanatics as well. But then once you drop down to 2 men, it's
for sure. Normal fanatic rules apply as opposed to Charlemagne squad.
Yeah, so So yeah, we got on, started deploying, and was sort of taking my time. I didn't want to get too far up the board at the beginning and just sit on the objective and evaporate from there. My squad's mostly being all regular, but a lot of them were, if they weren't regular, they were inexperienced against his stuff. And I was sort of mainly trying to hide from that Panzer IV because I think I mentioned it before. In the last few minutes in a hurry to submit my list, I added on a couple of extra guys here and there in the squads, and what I probably should have done just to sort of soak up those extra points, what I probably should have done was added some capture Panzerfaust for anti-tank, but I didn't think about that. So yeah, I didn't have a lot to counter a Panzer IV, so I just kind of hid from it, and I used one squad as bait. I literally ran them up towards the tank and then ran them away and hoped he'd chase me, and he did. So most of the game he was trying to take out one of my pretty resilient squads with the Panzer IV, so that worked pretty well in my favour. But fast forward towards the sort of end of the game, after a bit of chess manoeuvring and getting ready to be on objectives, and I brought in my two outflanking guys. Failed one order test coming in, but then the next round came in okay. And I zoomed my truck down the road, as you do. Took a shot from the side from a MMG that he had positioned there, because he obviously knew what was going to happen. But managed to survive that. Got all the guys out and ran them into combat. And then I did I was very proud of myself, Dan. I'm not really normally known for my great skill with vehicles, placing them exactly. I normally place them exactly where they're not meant to be, so I can't get my squad fast. But what I did is I could see what was happening, and I was on the objective down the end of the road, and so I just backed it up and had a pitiful shot at his truck, and then just sat there and waited for him to blow me up. And which inevitably happened, and then that was the road blocked, and he couldn't get his truck down, and I was on the objective with no way of him getting to me. So that was really great. I love it when a plan comes together. It happens, but seldom.
Yeah, well done, Hannibal Smith, leader of the A-Team.
Yep.
Love it when a plan comes together. Yeah, dying inconveniently for the opposing player or the enemy, as your troops would think of it on the table. Dying inconveniently in the exact spot that you want it to be. Is there anything better?
That's true. And so on the other side, my tank came in and lit up one of his squads that was there, and they sort of disappeared like a poof of smoke. And tank riders got off, assaulted another small squad, and then I was contesting that objective. So just coming up to the very last, in the very last round of the game, and it was pretty tense. I was sweating. Because there was a lot going on, and I thought I had it in the bag. I had one objective I was holding, one objective he was holding, one objective was contested, and two I was holding. So two contested, two I had, one he had, and I thought, I've got this. I'm all good. And then I just advanced up one of my squads to contest that. One of the last objectives to just make sure that I absolutely had it, and they got ambushed by a flamethrower. That's fine, 10-man squad. I can take a bit of that, but guess what? They didn't fail their order check after getting flamed. Just lost a couple of guys. But the next round, when I was going to run onto the objective, foobar. And off they went down the road. We going home, boys. Back to Moscow. So that one was didn't pan out as expected, but I was still okay because I still had two, and I was contesting two, and he only had one. But then I had sort of forgotten that he'd ranged in with his mortar on one of my squads down at way down the other corner of the table.
Oh, it's this is the one that was on your side of the table, yeah. Like safe from anything else.
Safe from anything else, and he was ranged, and I knew that. I'm just like, wow, I'm fine. I lose a few guys. It doesn't really matter. I don't need to do anything. All I need to do is just keep going down. But what I wasn't keeping account for, Dan, is the build-up of pin markers. And I realized with horror that I was on 6 for an inexperienced squad. That's fine. I'll just rally. So I rallied and I failed my rally. And that was okay. So I was still there. But then the next round, because he was ranged in, hitting on a 2 with his mortar, they got pinned out and they disappeared. So nobody was on that objective.
Which concerned me because I was on the same side as you, board next door, and then when I looked over, I was like, "Where did they go?"
Yeah. So it ended up being a draw, a hard-fought draw, and a fun game, a real puzzler. But it ended up being a draw, and yeah, I think that's probably an accurate reflection on player capability because he was playing pretty hard. So. Although I did make a slight mistake with calculating out an order, calculating out a pen against my tank, and thought I had won it, but yeah, we worked it out in time. Someone else pointed it out, which was excellent, because I would have been embarrassed to win the game and then realised later that I miscalculated the pen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, good.
So it was good. So good game, and yeah, I was still feeling pretty fresh at that stage. Time for a meal, and then into the next game. But how'd you go with your first game, day 2, Dan?
All right. Well, I'd reached the heady heights of 4th place at the end of day 1, and so of course the Best Coast Pairings draws me against the first place player who hasn't lost a game yet. And that first place player is Aaron Russell. So Aaron is playing British Airborne.
British Airborne?
Yeah.
Nobody plays British Airborne.
And he also playing British Airborne that's heavily orientated towards recce and vehicle mounted troops. So it's really interesting. And he'd so firstly, great guy. Secondly, he'd done some homework, and I loved the fact, being a paratrooper, that he knew his stuff and that he could relate it to airborne linking up with the desert rats in the way into Germany and op varsity. And so being op varsity, we had later war vehicles. So we've got a M22 Locust in there. We've got another, I forget what this other wheeled armored vehicle was. Yeah, we've got some pretty good stuff in there in regards to a good, solid mobile list that's not frail, and it's got good paratroopers to back it up with stubborn. So, similar idea to mine, much more developed, and I tell you what, I was soon to find out just how developed it was, because not only was his army well thought out, it was well played. Aaron actually divulged to me that he'd been playing this army ever since basically he started taking up bolt action. And I went to school, Rex. I went to school. I got schooled.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, basically we were playing on this beautiful table. It was a Normandy sort of a table with a V1 launch site on it. A couple of large bunkers there. Further away from that, towards the edge of the table, a couple of nice buildings, and some great trees and stuff like that. It was really good. We chose to play, and we can have a look up in the pictures on the blog or YouTube site, whichever we put these up on. And we chose to play basically all the green sort of grassy fields, which the whole board was, as just open. Hedges were hedges, and stuff that was on top was that. We had some unblocked roads, which was good for both our forces, I guess, in regards that they were unblocked. However, I guess the roads sort of went in like a bit of an H shape, so 2 entrances towards the centre of the board and then across the board. So yeah, it was quite evenly matched in regards to table setup. It looked beautiful. And the pictures look fantastic as well, because it looks as if I've got the run of the table if you're looking at it from my perspective, or
Right.
because there's British Airborne everywhere. But more likely through the correct tinted lenses if you're looking at it through Aaron's view of the table. He did have the run of the board. He just dominated me from the start. Yeah, it was really, really good. So we sort of met halfway. but him having the heavier armor vehicles and much more maneuverable, he's just outplayed me. And the reason why he just did so well is because he went to the toilet actually, and Ian came along and said, "Oh, how are you getting on?" I said, "Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm getting schooled, but I'm really enjoying it." And he said, "Oh, it's no wonder you're playing a good play there. Did you know that Aaron won CanCon this year?" And I was like, "No, but I'm not surprised given the way he's playing. He's really good." So it was really good. The reason why he outplayed me is because he knew his rules really well. He knew his capabilities really well. He played his army over and over again. Yeah, it was just really good. And I think I described it to you, Rex, as the OODA loop principle.
Yeah, well, let me tell you a little bit more about my game before you go into that. One thing I found with playing my game 4 is that the guy that I was playing quite carefully, and he was really thinking about his options and stuff. And that really helped me because it gave me longer each time to think strategy and think a plan. And that was really refreshingly good for me because it meant I could actually think things out. Whereas in your situation,
yeah, in my situation, so if you look at the OODA loop, the decision making cycle that was developed in Korea by an American pilot. So that decision making cycle. So because Aaron was moving everything really swiftly, because he knew his army so well, he had a bit of a game plan there. I found that firstly, I didn't have much time to think about my moves. And then it was sort of like, done, dice out, back to me. And once you got that dice in your hand, obviously you don't want to drag your heels taking too long. That's not fair on the other guy. But you haven't had much time to plan either, or look at what you're going to do next. And that's not that's just through excellent play from Aaron. So you're getting handed the dice, you haven't had time to think about it. Then it's easier for you to make a bad move and stuff like that. But also you find, because Aaron's controlling the tempo of the battle, just like a real battle, you find you're being reactive all the time. So really it was decision cycle dominance. So he was choosing what he wanted to do, making me react to it. Then I was doing poor decisions or decisions in isolation, looking at one part of the board. And yeah, it was just a fantastic game by him. I really got schooled in it. And it was great to see how a list like what I was playing, sort of for the first times, could be developed and go on and get developed into something even more special.
Before we move on, that is really interesting. Before we move on from that OODA loop thing, do you want to just quickly talk about that, since people don't know that, aren't familiar with what it's an acronym for?
Oh yeah, so Orientated, Observe, Decision, Act. So basically it's developed from dogfighting in the Korean War, and basically the pilot that could figure out which way up he was and where he was in the sky.
So that's the orientate.
Yep. Observe, look for the enemy, make a decision on what you're going to do. So that's a D, and then act, speed in carrying out that decision, or making a decision. Your observe basically creates a number of decisions that you could take. Decision is choosing which one of those options you're going to take, and then acting on it swiftly. So
that's a loop that you're continuously going. Once you've made your action, then you go back to the beginning and gather more information, and then need to start making more decisions based on that. So that's a loop that you're constantly going through.
Yeah, absolutely. So these guys are the ones that sort of started the dogfighting school actually at Miramar. What we know as Top Gun. So obviously getting the quicker you can do that, the quicker your turn or your circle is, literally, if you're dogfighting each other. So you can make your turn and your circle, your maneuver, even quicker and get the shot against the enemy. And then he's reactive again, and then you're OODA looping again to go even tighter and tighter. So the tighter your decision making is, the smaller your circles need to be to get the shot at the enemy, which forces his hand to be totally reactive to you, which means you're inside his maneuver loop or inside his decision making circle. And so inside the decision making cycle means that the other guy is completely reactive to you. So it's a war fighting thing. So
does he say something like, "Mav, get up here, I'm totally defensive"?
Well, you were right next door to me. I looked over, I was like, "Rex, get up here, get up here, get up here." And I was gonna walk up to some guy with a cigar and go, we need to launch alert fighters because Dan's in a bad place. How long's it going to be? 10 minutes. Bullshit. This thing will be over in 2.
Yeah.
But that's what it was like. But it was all done. Aaron's such a nice guy as well. So because he's so good, we actually had quite a bit of time to actually discuss my failings with this army, and it was really good. It was really good discussion with him. Really polite guy, really personable guy, and this is really great to lose to him and learn and get some lessons from it. That's always the best way to lose.
Yeah, I find that particularly interesting with me because, I'm playing a few game systems at the moment, and sometimes the rules, I'm like, I'm not even going to try that tank assault because I haven't done that, like infantry assaulting a tank. I haven't done that for a year. I can't remember how the rules work. It's just going to take too long. I'm not going to bother. Whereas if you're like right onto it with your rules, if you've studied your rules in lockdown or something like that, then that that puts you miles ahead of the other guys. So that's something to strive for.
It does. It really does. And if you look at the maneuver I pulled the day before, which was the something I'm really confident with. So the assault of the vehicle with my mortar crew, that is against Adam. So destruction of his armored fighting vehicle, which was a big surprise to him that I was going to take that option, but I was comfortable in doing that. Whereas when I'm playing Aaron, a lot of things I actually had to ask him I was like, does that work that way? And he's like, yep. And he's absolutely right. Of course. And just that comfortable with all his rules. Whereas I was less comfortable with a lot of the vehicle rules because I was using basically a vehicle-born army for the first time. So, or that maneuverable vehicle-born army. So it's really good. It's really interesting. And as I say, the best way to lose because A, a fantastic time, and B, learned heaps.
Great stuff. Alrighty, so
sorry, I should mention at the end of that game. So Aaron actually almost completely tabled me. I think at the end of that game, I had three Jeeps with not a vehicle on them. Not a weapon on them, with no troops inside, and my forward artillery observer. Everything else had been destroyed. So
yeah, that happened to me the day before as well. Yeah, Yeah, well, welcome to Bold Action. Hi, it's your first game. Yeah, yeah, okay.
But no, good. So I guess going on now to the 5th and final round after a bit of a burger or whatever it was we had for lunch. I think it was a hot dog and a roll. It was a hot dog and a roll. It was a Kransky and a roll. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and only 2 games that day, so we had a little bit more time. We went around and did a little bit more shopping. You got something to bring and buy, a couple of things to bring and buy.
I did. I got a Knights of Dice small case, which I find particularly valuable for Bold Action. It fits probably whole army. I've fit multiple armies that I've had. When I go to an event, I can fit inside that small case, and it fits inside like a day sack and everything. It's brilliant. As well as that, we got to see our friends over at War and Peace Games. Caught up with them. Found we sold some books. We actually got a couple of people wanted us to sign their books. That was something new and novel.
I've got one too. Bit of news. The highlight, the terrain highlight of my weekend for sure was going upstairs into the secret lair of the Chain of Command guys.
Absolutely. That was my terrain highlight as well. And the highlight is just consistency, I think. When we were playing on some brilliant tables in Bold Action, we were playing on some really good tables up there. But when you went upstairs again, it was like ascending into a higher plane of terrain construction up there. And
it really was.
We'll just name him John Bond as per his nom de guerre on Facebook. But John, who's
brother to James.
Who's one of the key players in Chain of Command Australia. So we absolutely loved your tables up there, and they're inspirational, and we loved meeting all the guys playing Chain of Command up there. So that was fantastic.
It really was. And so I don't know if we've raved about it before, but John's MDF buildings, he makes them out of MDF himself, like by hand, I believe. And then he takes to them with a Dremel. and manually cuts the all the mortar lines and everything out of the building from there. So a real labour of love. I'm not sure I could do that, but the end result, I think it's partly that, but his painting is so fantastic. And again, we'll put up some photos on valhallagames.net, or go to the YouTube channel, and we'll valhallagames.net/YouTube, and we'll have some stuff up there as well. But yeah, a real call out to those guys, because their stuff was absolutely fantastic. Not that ours wasn't, but their terrain was real, obviously a labour of love, like what you and I do, Dan.
Yeah, for sure. And as you know, we like a good bit of chain of command as well. Although we we talk about I guess a bit more our bold action stuff on the podcast at the moment. So it was really nice to meet those guys. Really nice to see what scenarios are playing, and also really I was really happy to see that so many of them had our book, and we're looking forward to playing scenarios. Well, had already played scenarios from our book and Chain of Command as well, showing its versatility across different game systems. And yeah, thanks to Dane up there for making our day, the first guy that asked for our signature on the day, and went on to some other people asked for some autographs in our book too, which was really, it was really special. It was both amusing and really nice as well. So thank you.
Yeah, it really felt like we were defacing it, didn't it?
Yeah.
Spent all that time trying to make it as beautiful as possible, and then we scrawled our names on the inside cover.
Yeah. He said to me, he said, "I've just bought your book." And I said, "You're the one." But, so yes, after that lovely interlude, we went back for our fifth and final game in the tournament. Rex, who were you playing? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so fifth game, and I was really pumped. I was really excited. I just just come off a really great fourth game, and I was like, okay, this is the game. This is going to be the crowning achievement, not the clowning achievement of my tournament this time. So a guy dropped out, and they had to do a bit of jiggling around, but I ended up playing with a guy, Matthew, otherwise known as Matty. And he was a really great guy, really enthusiastic, really excited about playing. And we had a choice of playing on a table that I'd played on before, the one from I think my game one with the river in between, or this, in inverted commas, horrendous jungle table that one end was busy, let's leave it at that, and then the other end was just insane. I've never seen so much jungle in all my life. And both Dan and I said, "Oh man, I hope I don't draw that table," didn't we?
Yeah. So when you're saying horrendous, it was absolutely beautiful, but yeah, it looked like it was going to be horrendous to play sectors in, or any game scenario where you needed to move across half of that table looked like it was going to be both challenging and painful. But you had a bit of a heads up from the owner of that board, didn't you?
Yeah. So I guess before I go on any further, that was the best board that I played on all weekend, and I enjoyed it the most of any other game.
Oh, it was amazing. It was an amazing board.
And it was an amazing board, and I couldn't have been wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong about the board. But so what we said is, well, should we play on this one over here that I've already played on, or should we play on that horrendous one? And I said, well, let's just give it a go. And we played on it, and it was really, really great. They had these square, maybe like 8-inch terrain pieces, square 8-inch terrain pieces, and they were, I guess, MDF with a mound on top of them, and then they kind of locked together like what a hex table would, but just square pieces. And then in between over the top of each one of those things, it was just completely covered in forest. Really, really nicely done, completely covered in forest, palm trees, all that, for a Pacific board. Obviously, hopefully you've worked that out from what I've said already. But then there was a pathway through the center of each of these little sections. So the entire sort of board was divided into three, and the right hand 2 foot of the board was just completely covered in jungle, just with paths, and it was so great. It was challenging, but it was so great. So
how did the guy, so the owner of the board, suggested something to you, a bit of a heads up before you started?
Yeah, he came over and he was saying, "Oh, okay, this is how we play the board." And I was like, well, we've already really decided how we play it. We've already chatted about it. And he said, oh, okay, so the way you play it, the way we play it is like this. The center section is like a village up on stilts, little village up on stilts. We play these just soft cover. You can see right underneath them. The right-hand end of the table, we just play that as it is, which is just totally covered in jungle. But the right-hand end of the table, the right-hand 2 feet of the table, what we were going to do is play that as have quite a few jungle pieces, your typical round bases, and we were going to play those as normal forests in that you can shoot into them with cover, but you can't see past them. And he said, no. What we do is we play it so you can actually see through all of those, but they're difficult terrain to walk through, and they're soft cover if you're in them or behind them. And all of a sudden, okay, right. So this other side of the table is actually super, super light in terms of cover, whereas the other end of the table was super, super heavy. And that was really interesting, especially because we were playing sectors.
Yeah.
So then I run the roll off, and I had to sort of decide what side of the table we're in. And to be honest, that scenario does my head in every single time anyway, because it's just so much going on. And then I had to sort of work out, well, where do I want to get to, and how am I going to prevent him getting to here? And do I want to be mainly defensive, in which case it'll be good to take the corner that had all the heavy stuff, or do I mainly want to be offensive, in which case it'll take the advantage of the corner that had all the heavy stuff that I could go through? And yeah, it was a real puzzle, in a great way. So. All right, so we ripped into the last game, and Matty was putting down his guys. I couldn't really see them because he was way in the forest. I was putting down my guys. As I've often said, rolling dice, making bad decisions. I was misdeploying all over the place, trying to work out the intricacies of playing on that table with that scenario. But I mostly put the guys down just right on the center line of the table, I guess, so they could dash over to the other side. And after a little bit of jostling left and right, I ended up with guys sort of going straight down the middle, but hard on the table, on the center line of the table, so they could migrate easily over to that top right corner, or furthest right corner from me, which was what I refer to as the golden corner.
Okay, so you're on the center line, yep. So, but just outside the 12-inch radius from the center of the table.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Right, good.
Actually, you have to run on. So I ran on as close as I could to the center line of the table.
Okay.
So I started moving guys up forward to try and get close to the golden corner, and B, engage with his guys, try and suppress them as they were coming across the table, because I knew they had to go past me to get to my golden corner. But one thing I did do is I deployed the Strathspey squad and ran them across to the right hand side, heading for that golden corner. Mortar on the left, and hard left to sort of suppress guys. Anybody that hung around more than a turn on the left hand side was going to get it from the Soviets. They were going to get it good.
Nice.
So he came forward, so rode up the center of the table. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before. Rode up the center of the table from my long edge to his long edge, more or less. So I left my tank and truck off the table for a while, and then I was pushing forward. A couple of squads evaporated as I was going forward. So I sort of figured, right, I better get the big guns. So he's sort of slowly coming forward to the towards my golden corner, and we just quietly moving along, keeping time, keeping pace. Anyway, so then I rushed on my tank, passed his auto check, came on, and ran right up the center on the road, on that beautifully prepared place that I'd left for him, with the with guys on the road but off the side, just in case a convenient tank may have come up behind them. So that worked pretty well. And then the tank came on, lit up one team. All of his teams had either some sort of anti-tank, either 2 Panzerfaust or a Panzer Schreck team. And so they were right next to my tank. So without any fear whatsoever, I rolled my tank up right alongside them, let them have it with 4 machine guns, and one of his teams died. So that was good.
What were his other big threats apart from his Panzerfaust? What other units were you concerned of, or did you deploy around, or were you trying to make sure you had a plan around?
So most of his other teams he didn't have any vehicles except a Kübelwagen.
Right.
So I knew
a transport one or a armoured car one with the MFG?
A transport one.
Okay, right.
Yeah. And I was thinking, well, it's just one Kübelwagen. I'm not going to worry about that too much in terms of, trying to prevent him from blasting across into my corner. Yep. So I just kind of ignored it. As it was, sure. I'll tell that story. I'll tell that story a little bit later. Okay. So the other teams that he had were large, decked out German teams. So with assault rifles, Panzerfausts, I think. But yeah, really quite scary teams, especially for inexperienced or regular Soviet infantry. They just obliterate them. So yeah, that was a bit of a worry. But I had the advantage of the fact that table was so heavily wooded on the right hand side, and he brought a couple of squads up on my right hand side through the pathways through the jungle. Sorry about that, someone just tried to drive at the side of my car. It happens on the motorways of Sydney, coming and going of the world.
Good manoeuvre.
Good manoeuvre. Good copious use of irritated horn. So yeah, he was going forward and pushing up through those jungle pathways. For that very heavily wooded jungle. So what I did on that side is I sent across some blocking guys from that side. My Strathbat squad, 7 unarmed men.
Oh.
And I had gone through him with the army list, but he either had forgotten in the heat of the battle, or he didn't sort of realise, or he didn't realise that was a squad, because his main big squad that was coming up through the jungle just sat down and went into ambush all the time, because he was waiting to be charged by my inexperienced Strathbat squad with only 5 rifle guys.
Okay.
So that was advantage on my side, just from having a large number of guys in it, seeming like it was dangerous, whereas in fact it wasn't at all. So that worked well. So back in the centre of the table, I think first dice out of the bag was me, which is very rare these days for some reason. In the next turn, and I was able to just move forward and let the other anti-tank squad have it. That was in point-blank range from my tank, and that was that. I'd cleared the middle of the table, and my tank was still alive. And then I was able to bring up my infantry slowly up the middle as well. I was doing what you did to me in a recent game, Dan. I was just holding 2 squads. It's like, which way is he going to go, left or right? And they're just holding.
Yeah. Maintenance of a reserve.
Yep. And so meanwhile, he's coming across the table relatively slowly. I think he's falling into the trap of advancing all the time. Advance, shoot. So you don't hit anything, but you don't. I guess he had assault weapons, but he wasn't really hitting anything. He wasn't really doing any damage, but he also wasn't moving anywhere. Yeah. So he was just kind of stalled there. So he was slowly working his way directly along his short table edge. So he was making it a long way to run to get into my golden corner as well.
Yep.
So So the table at the middle of the table was pretty comprehensively mined by that stage. So this is sort of towards the end of the game now. I was able to swing my tank around, move into his golden corner, take out the Kubelwagen, and get all my squads into that far corner for that scenario. And then I was able to finally stop feigning with my two guys in the centre of the table and just run them out into the open, into the corner. He tried to move forward into my golden corner, which was nothing preventing him, but he'd left his run a little bit too late, and I think he made it in with one squad, and then quite a few of them were dead. Meanwhile, over on the far side, the funniest thing that happened on my far right was I ran on my truck. Two squads of guys jumped out and ran down the jungle path, attacked his one squad that was sort of guarding that jungle path, and he managed to kill one squad, and then one squad failed to hit anything, and they didn't quite get into his corner. So he still had a squad alive down there that was blocking, and I just ran out of go, but they were half in his corner. So,
all right, okay.
So yeah, it ended up a pretty comprehensive win. So 14 points to 7 in my favour. But that was definitely the most fun game that I had. Not because I was winning, but because we were just having such a laugh. Matty was a great guy, and he was really enthusiastic for it. It was the best game that we had. In fact, the table really added to that. It was the table, as I said before, that the guy came over and suggested how we play it. And it was the table that we both said earlier, Dan, that we didn't want to play on, but it was the table that I most enjoyed for the whole tournament.
Yeah, I remember specifically saying to you I wouldn't want to play sectors on that table until we found out the way that guy suggested you played it, which I'm so glad worked. And what a great thing to do, come over to people in a timely manner as well, like before they've started playing, and so you're not frustrating people, so people can actually discuss if they want to play it that way, and then deliver your information or propose the way that you guys played, and then backing off and letting players make a decision. That was great gamesmanship at the tournament, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was right in the middle of his game too, because we started late for some various technical reasons in terms of pairing. So yeah, he was right in the middle of his game, and he was watching us. And as soon as we were starting to have that discussion and pointing to this and pointing to that, he paused his game and came over and helped us out, which was really nice.
Oh, good. And that table was very interesting because you said, it's dense over there, and yet it wasn't dense for playing the game. It's one of those tables where it's actually harder for you as the player to see than it was for your little plastic men to see each other on the table, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's one of those situations where you can quite easily miss a small squad that's down in the trees somewhere, and have that oh gosh moment when you when all of a sudden he runs them onto the objective or something at the end of the game.
Yeah, turn 5, you've got to keep your wits about you after 2 days of playing, eh?
Yeah, I had that plenty of times before.
Yeah, I like the way that when you deployed, you realised that every infantry squad had a threat, like a Panzerfaust, and you're going to get that, a lot of time with Germans and also with Soviets with all their captured Panzerfaust and stuff and a lot of their armies, and so you just decided to basically not let them dominate the table on you or dictate where you were going to go. You just stuck to your plan, because there's nothing you can do about it, right? You just stuck to your plan and made that plan work. I thought it was really good.
No, that's good. Yeah, it was good. It was a great game. We both enjoyed it. I think we both enjoyed it, and we were both laughing and we finished early as well. So we started late, finished early. So I think it was one of those things where I was finally getting my mojo with the army that I hadn't really played with before. I was actually sort of making decisions rather than standing around juggling the bolt action maracas, trying to work out what the plan was.
Yeah, good one. And I looked over and I saw you guys having a great time and having a laugh, so that was awesome, what it's all about. And fair play to Matt as well, because he's about the only person I've ever seen who's bought a salad to a tournament, so well done to him for managing to eat healthy while I was jamming hot dogs in my face.
Yeah, after a couple of days of what's really bad food in terms of your body, but awesome food in terms of your taste buds. And little sleep and lots of war game stress. It's you do feel a bit stodgy, but yeah, good on him for being prepared. Yep. So what a great guy. Hopefully I get to play him next time.
Yep, great guy. Loved his attitude. Loved how much fun he was having, man. I hope we get to play him again, see him again. I hope he keeps having fun. Good on you, man. So I suppose you want to hear about my last game, do you?
I do, yeah.
Before you start, actually, I'm driving along, and immediately before you started, you went into that, and somebody hit us, and I had a life-changing moment, and I realised the OODA loop was Colonel Boyd. That was the guy's name, Rex. Colonel Boyd, the US Air Force pilot that created the OODA loop principle. And I was thinking it wasn't Warden, because of course Warden was the 5 rings of the strategic bombing. You're looking at me like, what? But anyway, so it was Boyd that created OODA loop, and I actually think I said orientate, observe. Of course it's observe, orientate. You watch what you're doing for a while, taking things in before you orientate with the data you've got. So, but there we go. That all came to me as we're driving down the road immediately before we almost died because that car pulled out in front of us. That was it. Instead of my life flashing before my eyes, the OODA loop flashed before my eyes.
Yeah. It's surprising what's in your head, Dan. I'm constantly amazed.
It's not often in my head, but I can come up with dumb things like that, and what the name of the trash heap was, or the monsters at the bottom of the Fraggles garden in Fraggle Rock or something like that. But there we go. Anyway, I digress. So moving on then to going into my Game 5, I was extremely pleased to have been drawn against Brian Medbury.
Ah, yes. Brian played Brian last time. Great guy and a hard player too.
Yeah, and he's an absolute stalwart of the Australian New Zealand bolt action community, and he's not only been a player, but he's also stepped up and been a tournament organiser before. And Brian, I know from the last MOAB that I attended, he was actually the TO there. So it was really great to be able to play him, because I've heard about your guys' games and see him playing on the Facebook page, so see his results, and he's done pretty well. So I found out that immediately prior that he's actually there's number 2 at CanCon this year. So Game 4 I played number 1 in CanCon, Australia 2022, and now I was playing Brian, who finished 2nd there. So it was a fortuitous draw in the fact I got to play him at last. So he's playing Indians, so British Commonwealth troops playing Indians. He's got a Stuart and a Staghound and a few squads. He's chosen the extra squad for the Indians rather than go for the free artillery observer. He's got a 25 pounder, a few squads, and he's got a squad of Gurkhas. I believe he had 7 or 8 Gurkhas. Something tells me it was 7 actually. So so a tough army. With its rules, able to re-roll failed morale tests and stuff like that, a little bit like the Soviets. So, yeah, first time I've played Indians in quite a while. So there I was, the table there, playing sectors against him. Can't remember who won the sides, but it's pretty even sort of table matchup. He got a large sort of high feature on his side, bit of a chisel-shaped, sort of a wedge-shaped feature, with cliffs on either side of the short end, so running towards me. So he was able to get his observer up me and up there and have a good fields of view against me. He also had just in his table quarter, he had a building, a large house, T-shaped house, surrounded by a low stone wall, and there was a number of copses of trees around that too. And so have a look at, we'll post as usual, we'll post the photos for this on the blog, or maybe the YouTube, but probably the blog of this podcast. And so I'll explain to you, and you'll be able to see that table. So we deployed, pretty standard deployment I thought, except I was pretty surprised that he put the Gurkhas in behind the building, out of sight to me. I suppose it makes sense, so I can't shoot at them initially, keep them reserve. I was even more surprised at turn 2 when he moved them into the building. I thought that was pretty unusual. But yeah, he deployed quite way back. I should say that I rolled the dice for preliminary bombardment, and having the artillery observer maybe had a slight edge on me being able to roll the 2 results, but of course rolled a 1 for both of us, Rex, so no preliminary bombardment.
Right. Okay. That would have possibly come in handy for you at that point.
Yeah, it could have. Him having the 25 pounder, I was sort of hoping I might get to drop some rounds on that, stonk that to hell, but yeah. But there we go. It's no preliminary bombardment. He pulled quite far back in his quarter though, towards mostly the centre line. But yeah, so that's where he deployed. I deployed towards the front of my quarter with the majority of my things, either going into the trying to move into that sort of centre radius come the first turn, or around into the sort of neutral quarters as quickly as I could, trying to dominate the no man's land there. And that's the way it went into turn 1. That's the way the sort of movement went. He hung back a wee bit. His Gurkhas went inside the building, which I was very surprised with. Of course, reducing where they can fire, and dominating a piece of ground that, quite frankly, I wasn't intending to go into at all, because I can use the walls either way. And now I've got a wall. I've got sort of 2 obstacles, if you like, to him being able to charge me, get in close combat, the building and his visibility, and also then the wall being an obstacle around it as well. So I was quite happy with that. I swung around, a lot of my movement I swung around to the right of the that enclosed or fenced off part around the building, and around copses of trees. There's a gap in the hedges running down the road that ran from my table quarter into the centre. Yeah, trying to get around the copse of trees there, so I had the guys loaded up in their transport jeeps going around the back there. I also had my recce jeep that sort of went into the other neutral quarter, forward and to my left, and he had a sniper there that it's forward deployed, and so I sort of engaged that sniper and kept them away from engaging my other forward observer and stuff like that as well. I'd forward deployed my artillery observer, and I used that to put an early fire order down back where he'd bunched all his guys together, back sort of towards the centre line from his quarter into the neutral quarter to his right. And yeah, dropped the I suppose the aiming point there to call in fire at the start of turn 2. So not much apart from that happened. Started turn 2, I brought that in, didn't destroy any units, but put in some pins on them all, and yeah, that was handy. Sort of kept his 25 pounder suppressed, as well as a couple of his big squads, so I kept them back there as they tried to shrug off. So again, they weren't able to move towards that centre of the table and try to move into my table quarter, and that came in handy, as you'll hear about later. So yeah, the game progressed. I sort of moved forwards, kept him back in that sort of table quarter there. The Gurkhas eventually came out and moved towards the wall in the centre of the table, where there was a gap in the fence with a gate in it that we'd said we could move through without penalty. They opened up with their small arms on one of my squads and put a pin on it. One of his large squads came around that wedge-shaped high ground, started whittling down one of my large squads that had debust, the one that hadn't gone around the right-hand flank, around the copse of trees, went sort of straight up the guts, debust there, tried to dominate the centre of the ground, but they were whittled down by that big squad. Then transport brought up his engineer squad. They debust and flamed my squad, took it down from 6 guys to 2 guys. They managed to stand firm there where they were, so that was good. And they were about to become a massive thorn in his side, because no matter what he did, he could not kill these last 2 guys. Staircount came forward and almost wiped out another squad as well, but that had to be finished off over a next couple of turns by another squad that he brought over the high ground.
So stubborn paratroopers then, they're angry and they're stubborn.
Yep, really stubborn, really doing their job. The Staircount there was sort of tied up in there, a couple of squads tied up. So I had one guy left in that squad that had come up on foot. I had two guys left in the squad that had debussed from the vehicle, even after being flamed. They were going nowhere. And then the most beautiful piece of hand-to-hand combat action happened all tournament for me. So he brought up his massive squad, 10 guys. They assaulted me from long range across open ground. These two guys shot at them. No, they did not shoot at them because they were down. My mistake, they'd been flamed, they were down. This squad charged into me, assaulted into me, which is sensibly the right thing to do, right? A regular squad charging into two veterans that's down. They couldn't be shot at, so no one's going to get killed on the way in. He comes into close combat, makes close combat against me. He strikes first, 1 kill. Actually, it was 3 guys. There you go, my story's changing, isn't it? 3 guys, you've got 1 kill, 2 guys left with tough fighter, submachine guns, killed 2 guys, didn't even need to roll to see if they killed another 2 guys or whatever. So I won the combat and his unit melted away, and that vastly changed what happened there.
So how big was his assaulting squad?
10 guys.
10 guys.
So not only that, but because he'd assaulted me and I'd won in close combat, I got to do a consolidation move. I consolidated back into cover.
Right.
So it's that failed assault has vastly changed the whole situation, what's going in the middle of the field. Then a Staircount couldn't shoot at me after he'd taken off the last guy of the other squad without being in cover. So he shot off across the table and tried to got into my table quarter and started trying to destroy my recce jeep that was sort of evading it through recce. He brought the flamethrower forward. Flamethrower then failed to hit my guys as well. So I'm staying firm in there and sort of holding that route into that table quarter. He did get a truck in that just squeezed in there as well, so that was good. And the assault engineers came through, but thanks to that now 2-man squad of stubborn paratroopers, no one else was passing.
All right.
Of course, denied him a kill point as well, which has turned out to be vital. Meanwhile, on the other side of the board, in the later turns of the game, his Stuart came forward. I was hoping there was a narrow way around the back of the copse that my recce jeeps, my transport jeeps with 4 transport jeeps with 2 squads in had been waiting to zip out of cover because they were out of sight behind the copse of trees. They were hoping to zip out through this laneway, basically get into his quarter and debus there. However, no joy. Stuart came forward and did his one piece of effective shooting throughout the game for his tank. He destroyed the lead transport jeep. They debussed, put pins on the squad, therefore the squad had to debus from its other transport as well. Went into the forest with some pins on it, but that laneway was effectively closed because it was impassable terrain. This jeep had died there. So although that was the only thing that Stuart done the whole game, it was actually probably one of the most important things he possibly could have done as well. So that was good. Guys debussed from there. Meanwhile, brought up another squad on foot that moved into the area that the house was in, enclosed area there, the other side of the house from the Gurkhas. And the Gurkhas sitting there, my mortar spotted the opportunity. Now he could finally see somebody and called in a mortar there, a spotter, dropped a 6, rolled a 6, and his Gurkha squad just evaporated under a direct hit. Everybody except 2 were killed, and the last 2 guys failed their morale check on an 11, and they melted away without even killing a single person, so I was pretty happy about that.
So in terms of where you are in the game, in terms of winning or losing now, where are you sort of thinking you are at this point?
So now I've got what appears to be 2 squads in his table quarter. He's got 2 in mine, and we've both got a few squads that can actually nip into the neutral quarter. And the final turn saw him trying to destroy my paratrooper squad in the close country, which he could not do. He then moved into, with a final couple men of his squad, moved that squad into my table quarter. It's 3 squads into mine. I moved my forward artillery observer into his table quarter, so that's 3 squads into his table quarter. We moved guys into the neutral table quarter as well. His fire from a Stuart was ineffective, and when we totaled it all up, Rex, at the end of the game, after rolling an extra turn, 7 turns, we found that we were both on 19 points each. I'd had more kills, he had more guys in table quarters, in the neutral table quarter, so that evened up the 1 point values for each. We both had 3 squads or 3 units in the opposition's table quarter. 19 points each, an absolute dead draw, and 15 points each, and it was a great way to finish a game. It was very tense. Loads of stuff could have happened. It swung backwards and forwards. Loads of times we thought, oh, that person's had luck and I've had bad luck, and then it swung the other way, and it was just a really great cinematic moments as well. So, perfect draw. Couldn't ask any better for the final game.
Oh, that's great. Well done. All right, so that was the end of the game playing, and then we had
Yep, packed everything away and went into the prize giving. And what a amazing, we've already spoken, I think, about what the fantastic amount of prizes there were. Thank you, Warlord. Thank you, War and Peace Games. Thank you, all the other prize providers, Eureka, all the other sponsors, Nice Dice, and stuff like that.
Dark Castle Terrain.
Yep, Dice of War.
A very generous prize in there.
Yep, absolutely.
And also, one of the guys 3D printed out maybe 6 vehicles as well.
Yep.
Just to give away, and he stacked them up with like he printed a tank to go with the tank riders that had been given by one of the sponsors. So yeah, it was a really comprehensive prize pool for sure.
Yeah, it was great. And even Empress Miniatures includes some free miniatures with the guys' orders that they've done. So there was like dismounted tank crews and stuff to go there as well, which paired up nicely with some of those 3D printed vehicles. It was just a fantastic effort of organisation getting those prizes ready for us. So thank you, Ian and Adrian. That was fantastic. The winner of MOAB.
Was it me, Dan? Was it me?
I looked at Best Coast Pairings and the results said it wasn't you, mate. It said it was Aaron Russell.
All right.
Well done with his British Airborne. Fantastic result. Only person to go through the whole weekend unbeaten. And yeah, excellent job.
He played like the Terminator. He never got tired. He never needed sleep. He never made mistakes.
That's so true. But he played with a sense of humour and a great charismatic guy too. What a fantastic dude and a great result.
He'll be back.
I would say only in a rerun, but next tournament probably.
Yeah.
Second place was Jason with his LRDG. I think it was LRDG. And yep, second place to him. And third place, I believe, went to Adam. Okay, there was a few people tied on points there, I believe, but I believe he came out on top on strength of schedule and some other calculations that Best Coast Pairings done. So well done to him. And where did you come, Rex?
So we're a couple of days later now, and I'm driving. I don't have my documentation to hand. Was it 18th or something?
18th. You were 18th.
26 players.
Yep.
So yeah, so about my normal spot, sort of in the bottom third. So I was pretty happy with that. I think this is the best I've done in the tournament. As for those long-time listeners of the podcast, I'm the most enthusiastic guy. They should have an award for that. I'm the guy that's laughing and enjoying it the most. I'm a big hobby guy, but in terms of tournaments, yeah, I'm not up there yet. So, but there was best painted, and I was pretty happy with my army, and I was thinking I might be in the running for best painted. And they said that there was four armies that were sort of pretty close, and they had to make a tiebreaker. And unfortunately, I did not make best painted army. But I'd like to think I was in those top four. And even if I wasn't, I'd like to think that I was in those top four. Hey, what do you think about that, Dan?
I think your army was fantastic, Rex. You got so many comments on there, and I truly believe that we obviously can't see because it's anonymous voting, and they didn't tell us who it was. But I think there are some people there with pens and paper, sort of writing things down after they look at yours, and so maybe you got some votes. I'd like to think so, and I definitely think that it looked fantastic. And we've got a video to put up on our YouTube channel of how it looked on the day. The best painted, however, did go after a very, very tight thing. I think they said there was two that were exactly dead even, and the best painted went to Billy Kennedy with the Soviets. That included a self-propelled gun and a bunch of cavalry. So well done to Billy for that. Very good effort, and there was plenty of oohs and ahs around lots of tables, and plenty from those looking at Billy's army. So great job.
Yeah, I think anyone with cavalry, anyone that's got horses is sort of ahead of the game in terms of painting, because they really stand out. And his eye, I didn't really have a super good look at his army, and I'm really sad about that, because we were Russian. I was Russian, but we were also rushing, and I was
Boom, boom.
Yeah, we're trying to get ready for the game. We wanted to go up and see the chain of command guys upstairs, so I didn't get a chance to have a great look. But Dan said that the painting was awesome, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, good one. I think it was the painting was particularly striking because Billy's army was painted historical colours, but in an almost bright, fantastical way. So not fantastical as in it's unrealistic. Let me specify that. But in a non-weathered, very popping sort of a way, especially the cavalry. So it was very consistent, because the paintwork on the self-propelled gun was quite fresh as well. There wasn't a lot of chipping and stuff on there, so the whole army was consistent in that point of view. And I think because the cavalry was bright like that as well, it particularly drew people's eyes to it and got people's votes.
Yeah, I think one of the things with best painted is typically whenever you go to a war game thing, there's no lights there. Like it's quite dim, and you're not seeing the army in its best possible lights. Like when we take our photos, we literally have lights around them. So either a desk lamp with a bit of diffuser paper in front of it, or soft boxes or something like that, and you can really see the weathering and the guys' faces and the subtle changes in the uniform. But when you're at a tournament and you're doing best painted, you're not going to sort of see that. Sometimes it just looks like a big brown green mess of paint, and like with these contrast paints are the kids are using these days, Dan.
All the kids are doing it.
All the kids are doing it. It's contrast paint. It's contrasty. So when you actually look at it from 4 feet away, it really pops. Whereas sometimes your ultra realistically painted camo guy with the black soot on his face just looks like a mess. So that's why if you've got nice crisply painted guys, you'll do well at a tournament, we reckon.
Yeah, so well done. Mention dispatches for some more prizes as well. So early war general, best early war general got a prize. So Chris, who goes on the pseudonym of Chris O'Look on the Bold Action Australia New Zealand page, he was running Indonesians, run as IJA. Mid-War General was Brian, with that Indian Army in Italy that I played in the last game. Late War General was Chris Peck, running US Marines. So best themed army was Ashley Thompson, who I'd played in my game 2. Fantastic guy. And so third div, so BEF Coldstream Guards, I believe. And I managed to take away the Hannaswag Award for my my army with the British Airborne, with that absolutely deadly SD KFZ 10/4 that actually did alright.
Yeah, that was great. That was great to see a bit of recognition for your for you trying to theme it up rather than just go for the theme of good stuff, as we've said before. So yeah, that was really great. Got a little plaque with that in it that you can put up on your wall, and a certificate. And then in terms of is that all the prizes that you wanted to talk about, Dan? I think that's about it. That's a lot of prizes.
Well, of course, those were people who got to draw first.
Maybe just explain that, because other countries might not know how we do it here in Australia.
Yeah, I suppose Bold Action has quite, across the world, has quite a big thing that there's quite a lot of prize at a tournament. And so the prizes go quite deep, and in fact, at quite a few tournaments, almost everyone gets a prize. And they tend to, the TOs tend to organise it so, however way they prioritise the types of prizes, you get to go and choose your prize off that table first. But then as we go deeper, of course, other people then get to go up and get their prizes. So this tournament, we were luckily enough, even with the economic conditions, and thanks to all our sponsors and thanks to the hard work of the TOs, we had a prize for everybody on that table. In fact, there are even a couple of extra ones that weren't chosen that'll carry over to another tournament in the future, I'm sure. And so we all got a prize. So basically, the place getters got those, and I was lucky enough to get to choose for my Hannaswag Award quite early on, comparatively, and I chose the Combined Arms box set, the campaign and game set from Warlord Games. I was very happy to get that. And Rex, you got to go up in due course, and you got your award as well. What did you take away?
Yeah, I got a 3D printed US tank, I think it's a heavy tank, the Pershing.
Yep, Pershing, yep.
Pershing, and 2 squads of guys with it, some dismounted tank guys. And
that's right, Empress dismounted US tank crew, very nice too.
And another little blister of guys as well, so that wasn't bad for 3/4 of the way down the prize pool, for sure.
Not only some guys, but the best US Airborne blister you can get, US Airborne captured weapons. Yeah, so I've got them sitting on the thing, and of course, as the guys explained in detail, sort of went into in quite a lot of detail, is thanks for the sponsors. So our sponsors are listening. You definitely got a mention, that's for sure. And the guys were saying, there could be the beginnings of a new army for you. Go to the sponsor that sponsored it, that provided it for you, and buy the rest of your army from them, which I thought was a great idea. So I'll be looking for some more US guys, and you never know, next tournament I might be playing US. Nice. And I know for a fact that I've been impressed by Eureka Miniatures, everything I saw there. On the last day I was planning to get back to him, but I just couldn't get back to him and get what we needed. We had to shoot off from there, and I didn't have the time to browse. He had a very good stall where you could choose individual models and everything there as well. Really old school, benefits of old school, but modern techniques in his casting and everything, really high quality, and I'm looking forward to probably getting some Chinese off him in the future. So there's a bit of an insight. Nationalists as well, the Chinese that nobody plays, so.
Right, okay. Obscure.
Yeah, obscure, and maybe we'll talk about that sometime in the future.
Sounds good.
So that was it. It was all over, bar the handshakes, the goodbyes to new friends that we'd met, yeah, we said farewell to everybody after that, and shot off back home after 2 days of magnificent gaming. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. How about you, Rex?
Yeah, it was really great. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting away with you, Dan. Thanks for coming over to Australia to take part in it. It was a pretty expensive tournament from your side. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Great guys, really well organised. Pretty much a faultless tournament. There was no issues. 2 TOs made a massive difference. I think the guys were pretty laid back. Still doing a great job, but they weren't stressing out, which is great. And yeah, I can't say anything bad about it. I can't say anything. The only thing I could probably say bad about it is you all need to come to MOAB and put your stuff in the bring and buy, because I didn't get to buy enough stuff.
Yeah, I can't can't commend the tournament organisers enough as well, because they were laid back, but then they intervened where required. They were always present, and they also were very interactive, and so they're positive, they're charismatic, although taking a back seat, and they were also very forward and coming around, being very proactive and coming around, making sure that people knew how much time they had left and stuff like that. And also last dice, very swift around the table with the last dice, how much time was left, so that, so everybody was on the same level playing field. So yep, I thought that was excellent. Just on your bring and buy, I wonder if there's an opportunity maybe for organisers of tournaments like organisers of events, so not individual tournaments but events like MOAB. I find it a bit vexing that when you're playing in the tournament, you're the last to go down to the bring and buy and stuff like that. And I wonder if organisers of the tournament, the event, not the tournament, so the whole MOAB organisers overall, I wonder if they could open up the bring and buy for like an hour beforehand, where if you're a participant, if you're a player who's got a ticket, you can like show your ticket on your mobile phone or something that you've paid. Then you could get in an hour before you play your games, and so that the people who don't just rock up off the street get all the good stuff. Then the players have to get second choice sort of when they finish their games or in between games. So I wonder if that's a thing. It's absolutely tiny and minor, but yeah, because we love the bring and buy there, and it'd just be great to give players greater access, I think.
Yeah, that would be good. I can imagine bring and buy is pretty stressful on that first morning. I don't know how long it takes them to process everything. I'm thinking maybe the 11 o'clock bring and buy open is probably the amount of time it takes them to get everything labelled and out on the shelf. But yeah, it would be really good, because I would have certainly bought more stuff if there was more stuff there to buy. And I assume they get a little slice of that action just in terms of helping run the tournament. I don't know, but yeah, I'd love to give them more money. That'd be great.
Yeah, they definitely do, and that's definitely deserved, because I mean, end of the day, they're facilitating it all, and they're set up there with full-on FPOS and barcode scanning machines and everything. They go to a lot of effort, and so they deserve all that money.
Yeah, it's super well organised, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's fair that the players probably bring a lot of stuff with them, and so maybe that comes in the last hour, because players are only there about an hour before it starts. Maybe then the first, when it opens, the first 2 hours or something, therefore basically lunchtime, which would be lunchtime for all the game system tournaments, maybe that's only open to people who are tournament participants, and or have a trade or whatever it is. Basically you're a participant in the event rather than people just walking off the street. But I don't know, maybe that'll stunt their sales, but just an idea. But it's certainly not a complaint, it's just an idea maybe. But yeah, it was there was some good bargains there. Majority of it this time, in fairness, probably sci-fi and fantasy, but that's the way it goes.
Yep, so I really enjoyed it. It was a great tournament. We had good accommodation right next door.
Good.
It was cheap and clean. The food we got everywhere around was great. The food we got at the place was great. The TOs were great. So all in all, just a fantastic experience.
It was an absolutely fantastic experience. Don't let my comment on how to maybe I guess move on the bring and buy even more doesn't mean it's not excellent already. And the food there is excellent. It's great, decent price, swift service you can possibly get. Again, they've got FPOS there as well. Very professional dealings from I guess a well-run well-oiled machine there. It's so good, such a good tournament. I just totally recommend it to people. MOAB, get there, guys. The players are great. The stand of the armies was great. Look forward to seeing the pictures on our blog / YouTube. We get them up there. A fantastic time. I've spent you know, some money to come over to play multiple years because it's that good. Just fantastic event. Come over, get stuck into it. Go, 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 go.
All right, well, that's it from me, Dan.
That's it from me. Thank you for going there with me, Rex. Thanks to everybody who played. We'll see you all again soon.
All right, talk to you soon.
Stay classy, MOAB.
Bye.